Welcome to Chatting with the Experts, a podcast for immigrant women from Nigeria, Ghana, other parts of Africa, and the Caribbean who have relocated to the United States and the United Kingdom. In this podcast, we talk about the struggles and highlight the triumphs experienced while sharing resources and experiences that our fellow immigrant sisters can benefit from. My guest today is Tomide Awe, who lives and works in the United States. And Tomide, can you tell us all about yourself and include in that your formal education? Because I'm so impressed with you.
Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm really glad to be here. So, like you said, my name is Tomide Awe, and I am a Nigerian. I moved to the US in 2015 for my MBA. I'm currently a senior strategy and ops manager at Twitter. But I'm also an entrepreneur. So I launched my African brand in 2017, and we're still going till today. So I'll just take a step back to, walk you through how I got to the US, right? So I left Nigeria at the age of 17. I actually did my undergrad in the UK, Leicester University. I studied economics, BSc economics there. And I went back to Nigeria, actually. What did I? Yes, I went back to Nigeria for my NYSC for a year. At that time, I worked at Mobile for 1 year for my NYSC, and then moved back to the UK for my master's. So I did my master's at Warwick Business School in finance and economics, after which I went back to Nigeria to work in consulting at Accenture for about 3 years. And then I realized that I wanted a more formal education in business. Like in consulting, you're already introduced to how to run a business, right? And, making businesses more effective and efficient and all of that. But I wanted a more formal education there. And so I moved to the US for my MBA. So my MBA was at the Wharton School. So that's University of Pennsylvania. I was there from 2015 to 2017. And when I graduated, I launched my startup for about 9 months before joining Twitter in the strategy and ops team, where I still am today.
Fantastic. So Twitter is the main job. And when I say the main job, that's the corporate job. And tell us about this other startup that you launched.
Sure. So the name of the startup is Olori. Olori means queen in the Yoruba language of Nigeria, and we offer gorgeous Africa-inspired handbags that celebrate culture and heritage whilst empowering women. So one of the reasons why I decided to launch Olori was, like I mentioned, I've lived in different countries since I left Nigeria at 17. And I remember one of the first things I noticed when I left Nigeria was my perception of Africa as an African was very different from what other people saw Africa as. What the media puts out there is just, you see a child with flies, right? It's just poverty and lack and charity. But I know there's more to Africa. And it's unfortunate that there are poor people in Africa, but there are poor people everywhere, And I think what the media puts out there is heavily skewed. And so seeing that perception, but also seeing the curiosity on the faces of my non-African friends whenever they saw me wear my African attire, I would say over a period of time from being in the UK to being in the US, that just, it gave me this mission, I would say, to showcase the beauty of Africa and pull other people into it in a way that would not mean that they're taking away from Africa, if that makes sense, that they can experience it whilst giving it the respect that it deserves. So that's what we do at Olori. We're showcasing the beauty of Africa through our handbags. We use Ashoke fabrics, starting with Ashoke fabrics, to showcase the beauty of Africa, and hoping that we can, of course, expand to other countries in Africa over the years. Yeah.
I love it. You're getting the best of both worlds. So you're in the tech space with Twitter. Everyone knows Twitter. And you're also, a businesswoman showcasing Africa through handbags using fabrics that are natural, that occur locally there. I love it. I know you said to me that you decided, because as you said, the media portrays Africa in a very bad light. And that's one reason I do this podcast too, to showcase that even though we are immigrants, there's a lot more
Exactly.
to an immigrant woman than just, sometimes people have asked me, "Oh, do you need an interpreter?" And I'm like, I only speak English. English is from where I come from. English is the main language. Yes, there are other languages, but we go to school and everything is taught in English. So, this
No.
is an opportunity to talk more about that. That
Yeah.
we are more than what the
That is a
media
funny
says.
story.
So, so I love the idea about of your entrepreneurship. Tell us about Twitter. What made you go into Twitter? What made you? I mean, what did you? What pushed you in that direction? Because you in finance, and now Twitter, as far as I know, is not it's not a financial company in any way.
Because it wasn't planned, to be honest. Like I said, I was in consulting before, and before then, I did my master's in finance and economics. So I was very heavily into finance, and I know at that point in time, I was even looking at investment banking. I actually started the Cfa Qualification as well. I've done the first two. That's the Chartered Financial Analyst Qualification. So I've passed through the first two levels because I wanted to go into investment banking. So when I was actually leaving Accenture, one of my goals for coming to the US was to go into investment banking and to actually just switch careers. While I was doing my MBA, I did my internship in investment banking and realized that I hated it. I hated finance. Like, I loved the intellectual challenge of finance, which is why I continue to do it in my educational path. But in terms of working, I did not want to see finance. But the good thing about finance was it taught me how to be very analytical. So the skill that it gave me, I loved, and I wanted to still take into my job. So I realized that while I didn't want to go back into consulting as I knew it, I wanted to do the consulting work, but within a single entity. And so that's when I started looking for roles that would allow me to do that. So my role today is in strategy and ops, which is pretty much doing consulting in-house for leads. So how did I get Twitter in particular? Sometimes I tell people it was a miracle because at the time, like I said, I graduated in 2017 and I didn't have a job for 9 months. It wasn't by choice. It was because I couldn't find any company that would want to, I was an international student. So there was no company that wanted to file my H-1B visa. So I was working on my startup because I had to keep staying, right? And I applied everywhere. And at that time, I was actually speaking to ExxonMobil in Nigeria as well. And I had gotten a verbal offer. I was just waiting for the final documentation, but they were taking so much time. But Exxon was my dream job at that time. So I was ready to go back. But then Twitter called me out of the blue and said, they had received, I don't know whether it was my school that had sent them my resume or something, but the person just said he had my resume in front of them and they wanted me to apply for this role. And I did. And funny enough, it was the easiest interview I'd ever done. And I got the job, and I got the job right at, a few weeks before I would have had to leave the country because I didn't have a job, So I say it was a miracle because I never thought about tech as such because I didn't know much about it. Coming from Nigeria, you have to enter our company, Jike, like that was, that was what it was. And it was so great that Twitter reached out to me. It was the role that I wanted. It's a fantastic place to work. And it was better than the dream that I had, really.
Who said miracles don't happen? I believe in miracles. So you got yours.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that's fantastic. So so you had mentioned that the transition was hard though, coming from I guess from Nigeria, and you didn't come here directly. When I say that in terms that you left Nigeria, went to the UK, studied there, went back, then came subsequently at some point to the United States. And you mentioned the transition was hard. So can you point out what was difficult about it? And I know I've heard your miracle, so I just want to hear a little bit about the difficulties. Only because I believe in celebrating, but I know behind every success there's a story.
I think there's a lot of it. I would say, just speaking about the transition itself, I spent cumulatively about 5 years in the UK. And then moving to the US, I assumed that, I've already been I've lived away from my parents, from my family, because I went to the UK not having, any family there. So I said, I've already done this, so I'm used to this, I can do it again. But I think I had a massive culture shock. I did not expect the culture to be so different. And I was in Philadelphia again. I didn't have family, and I had to start. I'm an introvert, so I had to start meeting people afresh, which is very stressful for me. And I remember that the first 3 months, I would just like cry in my room, wipe my tears, go for my lectures, come back, cry again. So I think the biggest thing for me was the culture shock, and just understanding all the dynamics and having to be so politically correct, like being scared of offending people by, funny enough, there was a lecture it was a small group lecture. And I think I had used the word simple-minded. Like I was trying to say, let's just simplify things. But, I translated it very literally as in, oh, maybe people like me are quite simple-minded. And then they were like, oh my God, why would you use that word? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, they explained it and I realized that, it was not the right word to use, but I didn't even, for someone that has spoken English for so long, like for all my life, that was my first time of knowing that simple-minded, putting it together like that was not right. So just that fear of using the wrong words, offending people, culturally, it was a lot for me, in addition to just not being around family. So that was one transition. But the other part of it, I would say, was, it looks like I've achieved quite a bit, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm the youngest child in my family, and I was that child that my parents didn't think was going to succeed.
Really?
It was always like, oh yeah, it was. In fact, my sister was here over the weekend and she was like, look, I can't believe you're where you are right now, because I was that child that failed all my exams. Like my siblings would have to go to my parents and beg them before they saw my results. When I was going to school, my parents just wanted me to get an undergraduate degree. Like that was it. Like, if you can just do this for us, we'll be happy. Transitioning all the way to being able to go for my MBA at Wharton, I think it took a lot of persistence. It took a lot of failure along the way and believing in myself. Even getting to Wharton as well, I was like, I hope they're not going to find out that I shouldn't be here. Like just that imposter syndrome and having to make sure that I graduate, like I think that's something that I've carried with me. I still carry it with me today, knowing where I've come from and, going from a place of failure to a place of believing in myself that I deserve to be here because, I've earned it. Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there, but I would say my transitional phase was around culture shock, kind of just policing my words, policing the way I interact with people, and also policing my belief in myself.
I am so happy you shared that, because a lot of people sometimes need to hear that, failure sometimes is part of success. And when you see a successful person, sometimes you need to stop and ask them, instead of being jealous of them, but ask them, their story. Because many of us have had hardships to get to where we are. But it's those hardships that make us who we are. It's those hardships that give us a sense sometimes of direction, a sense of empathy, where we can see a fellow human being and say, you know what, but for the grace of God, that could be me.
Yeah.
Or that was me a year or two ago. And so I see where you are and I can help you, because you don't need to stay there. So I think sometimes it's the failure that makes us be the person that the world needs, because everybody has a purpose in life. I believe that fully. And if it is just because of, your struggles earlier on in life, that now you're here and you can talk to someone, that in itself can change not just one life, but many lives. So I'm very happy that you shared that, Tomide. It touches my heart to hear that, because I consider you a success. That's one of the questions I have, but I consider you a success. And I consider you even more of a success when I hear your story now. I didn't know that part. I didn't know that you had your struggles. And I know, being that I lived in Nigeria, that academic failure in Nigeria is like almost a taboo,
Yeah.
And the good thing is, when we come abroad, we realize that there's support for everyone. And many people, probably it's not the academics that's going to make them, but there's something special and we all have a purpose. So I'm really happy that you shared that.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you too.
Thank you.
So I'm about to wrap up. I was going to ask you if you considered yourself a success. I think you've said it, but maybe I want to ask the question again directly so that you can say it, because somebody needs to hear what you're saying. Somebody needs to hear that, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I am Tomide. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business in which I am showcasing the positives of Africa, but I'm also working with one of the top tech companies. And many years ago, I didn't think I could do that, but look at me now. And so if I'm like that, so can you.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you the question so that you can say it.
Yeah.
So Tomide, do you consider yourself a success?
I don't see success as a static point, because then if you attain success, then what else is there to aspire towards? But I do believe that success is a journey, and I am on that journey. I believe that I look at everything that has been put in front of me, all the resources that have been put in front of me, and the opportunities that have been, put in front of me as well. I believe that I have made the best use of those, which means that I continue to be on the path of success. So I would say that I'm on the path of success, and I have no regrets at all. If I had to change my past and say, maybe I should have passed all my exams and all that, I would not change that. I like the fact that I failed, and it's something that actually gives me a lot of freedom, even in this entrepreneurship journey, because I failed so much that I've, as a result of my failures, I've passed, right? And so I look forward to failing, because that's the only way that I learn. That's the only way I can actually reach the goalpost that I want to get at. So yeah, I do strongly believe that, you should never write yourself off, that it doesn't work today doesn't mean it will not work tomorrow. It's also not a reflection on who you are. Like you said, every single person has value, and it could be that you even if you're not academically oriented, you might be creatively oriented. There is value in you, and it's all about finding yourself, understanding what your strengths are, and really focusing on those, and honestly understanding what your weaknesses are as well, and working to be better. So am I a success? I would say I'm on the journey to success. And I believe that everybody can be on that journey as well. And you have to believe in yourself.
Excellent answer. I love it. I love it. All right. So we know that you work with Twitter. We know that you have an amazing business showcase in Africa. So if someone is to get in contact with you online or offline, how do they find you?
So the quickest way to do it would be on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, it's my first name and my last name, Tomide Awe. That has the links to my business. It has the links to, I mentioned earlier that I'm starting a podcast soon. So if you want to know anything about me, that's the best place to reach out. And you can send me a message via DM as well. Always happy to interact.
Lovely. I told you to do a shameless plug for your podcast. Do that just now? What's the name of your podcast?
The name of my podcast is going to be Starting Up. And it's really focusing on the entrepreneurial journey of women, and focused on e-commerce as well. So when I was starting my business, while looking for resources and information, I saw that a lot of it was targeted towards venture capital. So people that were raising funds, not necessarily people that are bootstrapping. And so this is a resource point for people that are bootstrapping their e-commerce companies to actually just, unveil what actually goes on in the background. It's not a rosy journey, and it's not all about money. So this is just taking people through that journey and giving them the resources that they would need to succeed as bootstrapped e-commerce entrepreneurs.
Awesome. And so, folks, that was Tomide Awe, an amazing young woman. I said so at the beginning, and I'm going to conclude with that. She has impressed me beyond measure. And so for my listeners, if you have enjoyed what you just heard, especially from my amazing guest, Tomide Awe, please head over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please click subscribe. If you're an immigrant woman from Nigeria, from Ghana, from the African continent, or the Caribbean, and have found these stories interesting, intriguing, or whatever other adjective you like, please let us know in your reviews. And if you'd like to be a guest on my show, Chatting with the Experts, please head over to www.chattingwiththeexperts.com/contact us, and let's chat. Thank you, Tomide. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you. This was great.